So Overwatch 2 just released a few days ago, and there's a lot of new players out there that are trying a lot of different roles. And at this channel, we typically do support guides for Overwatch 1. But moving into Overwatch 2, I understand, the role of support is a lot different for a lot of new people. And to be honest, the whole entire game is completely new for a lot of new people. So I think today would be a good time to just talk about really what's going on with support. Who's the easiest character to pick up, who's the hardest character to pick up, and what's the characters that we use to get value. So we're going to go over two things today. What we said first was the easiest to hardest, and then after that we're going to talk about which characters are actually good, and you're going to find that honestly there's a lot of correlation there between the start of this. But if you were an Overwatch 1 support player and you think that this meta is a lot more difficult to really pop off in, you would be correct. Overwatch 2 support is a lot more difficult than what it was in the original game. But without further ado, I do want to just give you guys exactly what you clicked on. I'm going to give you exactly what you want today. And first off, for the easiest support to pick up and just play for beginners, and not having any understanding of what is going on in the game before, or if you're just completely new to the role or just don't really know what's going on, I think Mercy is probably one of the easier supports to play. Now, this is the thing. I'm not saying that support is easy. I know a lot of people say Mercy's not easy. There's a lot that goes into her kit. I do want to reiterate, this is about what character is the easiest to pick up. Not to be the master at, just to pick up, play, and get some value in Overwatch 2. So I think Mercy is one of the actual initial supports that they do give to you, which I think this was a decent pick. Because, I mean, she is exactly what you think a support would be. She has good healing, well, not the best healing potential, but she pretty much functions as exactly what you think a support would be. She has damage boosts, and she can res. I think it's very native to what people think from outside perspectives of maybe just like an MMO kind of healer. That's kind of what I think about when I'm thinking, oh, healer, like support, this is Mercy. So I think she's very easy to pick up. I mean, I remember when I was first playing Overwatch 1 that I found Mercy to be very simple, and I knew that I was doing stuff right, and I also knew that I was doing stuff wrong. So if you're looking for a good starting character and you've never really played FPS before, I think Mercy is a very good pick to start on. Now, moving on to the next support that I think is the second most easy would probably be Moira. Now, I know some people that are veterans are like, whoa, I think Moira is easier than Mercy. I think the thing with Moira is that it's a lot easier to kind of mess up on this character. Most notably with her healing, it's very easy to just heal all the time because her healing's on a resource meter, if you don't know. If you heal for too long, you'll run out and you'll have to wait to do damage and get that gauge filled back up. I think having to manage that alone makes it a little bit more difficult for players that maybe don't know that. I also think it's very easy to kind of use that fade ability in situations in which you don't have to. It's very easy to use it early in the fight, and then you're really exposed to characters like Tracer and Genji. They're going to be able to really dive into your backline and just eradicate you. So I think Moira's, I think compared to other characters, I think she's pretty easy to pick up, but I think it's a little bit more difficult than Mercy in the sense that there's a lot more things that you can really just mess up. With Mercy, it's a lot easier to just mess up, like res, I think, is the most common one, but with Moira, there's a lot more at play there. So moving on to the next one, I think this one actually might surprise some people. I think Brigitte's getting to be a little bit on the easier end, just like conceptually. I don't really think she's like she was in Overwatch 1 entirely, where she's playing like she's some sentinel in the backline. I think she's much more useful in brawl scenarios where you're just kind of playing together with your team, getting as much damage as you can, and healing people all the same. That being said, I don't think she's easy to pick up. I think that if you're a new player, I feel like she might be easier, honestly, to pick up now in Overwatch 2, though, compared to Overwatch 1, just because her role is different. You're just going to be stacking with your Ryan or your Zarya. You're just going to smack people together, and that's honestly what you're going to be starting with. But I think she's harder than Moira in the sense that her packs, her like throwing pack healing ability, it's a little bit more difficult to manage than the healing resource on Moira. And there's a lot that goes into her ultimate, and there's a lot of intricacies that I think if you just pick up Brig, you won't be quite as great with her as you would be these other two characters below. Now, before I get any hate for this next one, I'm putting Lucio at number 4 as one of the easier supports to just pick up in Overwatch 2. Understand that he's in the middle of the pack right now. He's in the middle of the pack. Lucio is by far one of the hardest supports to get at a very high level on. There's a lot that goes into his kit that you can really maximize. But at a very base level, if you just have someone on Lucio, it's very hard for them to not get value. I think it's easy to just pick him up and get some value on him compared to something that we're going to see at the higher end of this list. I think he has decent survivability because he can heal himself in a very easy way. And so long as you're playing together with your team, because it's a team-based game, you'll be able to speed people around, you'll be able to heal people around, you'll get stuff done. That being said, I think if you are a beginner player and you're like, man, I love Overwatch 2, I love the role of support, I want a character that I can really grow with, I think Lucio is a very good, very, very good starting pick because he requires aim, but it's not like that is his entire kit. And you can pick him up and conceptually get some value, and you can grow over time and look at these great Lucio players like maybe Frogger, maybe any like Overwatch League player that's very good on Lucio, and you can learn the character. So if I were to actually switch the whole idea of this list and say that what character would I say for beginners to learn the most on, Lucio is definitely a good pick. 100%, if you want to learn Lucio, go check the guide out on my channel. I think it would give you a lot of insight on the character that would maybe make you pick him up. So moving on to the next one, we're starting to get into a little bit more of the aim centric supports. And first off, I know these picks might confuse people, but let me explain when the entire list is done. Ana's gonna be up next. I understand Ana, a lot of people think she's a very heavy aim support, but when you look at these other characters, it's a lot harder to hit shots in some of these other characters than it is as Ana. That being said though, by no means is she an easy character. I just think that compared to the characters that are going to follow her, you'll understand realistically why I'm putting her in this scenario. The thing is, hitting those sleep darts is very important. Hitting big anti-nades is also extremely important. And with one less tank, you're going to be doing a lot more damage than you are going to be doing just healing in Overwatch 2. And I feel like for new players to pick that up, it's very difficult to see that. I just think abilities are very much more difficult to pick up for the majority of players compared to just aiming on the character. I think a lot of people that are picking up Overwatch right now are mostly like Fortnite, Apex, and maybe some Valorant players. So I feel like the aim aspect of it, they might not struggle with on Ana as much as they would with abilities on other characters, which segues perfectly into my next pick for one of the third hardest support currently in Overwatch 2. Gonna have to go with Baptiste. The reason why I said this is because while Baptiste, it's a lot easier to just kind of heal the entire game and get more value than you would on Ana, I think that the problem is that his immortality field, which is his like little disc that he throws out for players that maybe don't know, I think that is a lot more difficult to get the maximum value on, and if you're just throwing it around, it's a lot more detrimental to your team than if you're just like throwing around sleep darts. That being said, I think that Ana and Baptiste, you could argue them to be flip-flopped in any scenario. This is just coming from the personal belief that abilities are what beginners struggle the most with in Overwatch when they first play. I think that is really what defines this game. So, I mean, if there's any beginners watching this, I know I made a guide on Tuesday about helping out beginners and returning players. If you have any questions or maybe some insight about what you really struggle with in the role of support, please let me know down in the comments below, because quite frankly, I have not been a beginner for this game for 7 years, and I want to know how I can help you all better. But moving on, Zenyatta is going to take the second hardest support in Overwatch 2. Now, here's the thing. Is his kit very hard? No. You know, you throw Discord orbs on people to do more damage with your entire team. You throw your Harmony orb on your friend, and they get healing, and you just shoot things. The problem with Zenyatta comes in his positioning and where you want to place yourself. Overwatch 2 is a much more dangerous game for support players, and that was very evident in the scrims that I've played so far. You will die a lot on support, and Zenyatta is a glass cannon. He has not a lot of health, he has a lot of shield, and that means that he's just going to be dying a lot faster when you're going to get EMP'd or hacked by a Sombra, who's also very strong right now. In the current iteration, Zenyatta is very, very difficult to pick up just because you're not as safe anymore, and you don't have options to really heal yourself. You don't have your regenerative burst on Baptiste that heals you for 100 immediately. You also don't have your nade for yourself on Ana to heal yourself either. That being said, he's still very strong, and we will talk about that in a few minutes. But nonetheless, I think he's one of the harder characters to pick up. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think the hardest character to pick up right now, and maybe a little biased because she's new, but the hardest support character to pick up right now, I'm going to have to say it's Kiriko. Conceptually, Kiriko is a very difficult character for players to pick up. and I could go in depth with this, and I'll talk a little bit about it. I think that Kiriko plays very, very well into dive compositions, and I'm probably losing a few people here, but she's not your average support. She was created in the essence of Overwatch 2 in mind. It was just like Junker Queen and Sojourn. They were created with Overwatch 2 in mind. All the characters previously to this, they were not created in Overwatch 2's image. They were created in Overwatch 1's image. So she plays much differently than any other support. She plays very aggressively, and then she teleports back to help her team, most notably her support. And I just think that that whole concept to have to explain to people when they first play the game of knowing how dive works and that she's a dive support, I think that is just conceptually so difficult for beginners or just someone that just picked up the character to do well on that, and let alone understand how difficult it is to aim on this character. Her healing's a little bit finicky if you don't understand how exactly it works. I think by far she is one of the hardest supports to pick up. To master for a veteran player, I'm not so sure if that would be super, super difficult. I think once you kind of get it, you get it. But she's definitely a difficult support to pick up. Again, I might be biased because she just came out, but I mean, let me know what you guys think. If there's any beginners that are trying Kiriko out, I'm sure that she's a doozy. Like, she is hard to really pop off on. But now that we're done with this and we know which characters, in my opinion, from supports are the easiest to hardest, let's actually move right over, without taking too much more of your time, of which characters are the best to worst on supports. And what you'll see is that this tier list looks kind of the same. I mean, if we reference this, there's only been a few shifts. Now, the reason why I've put Kiriko on number 1 is that dive is just very strong right now, and if you want to really have the best character and you want to play a must-pick character when she finally releases in comp, I think Kiriko is just going to be very good. She plays very good with Sombra and other powerful characters. If you want to play the best character, there she is. Zenyatta, I mean, Zenyatta just does very, very well with killing things fast, and that's what Kiriko really wants when you're comboing her with him with Kiriko, because that's essentially what we're doing in scrims most of the time. The whole idea is that if you're doing damage, you don't really need the healing that you would need from Moira or you would need from Baptiste. If you're doing more damage than them, they're dying, you're not going to be taking damage, just take him out fast. So that's why Zenyatta's doing really well, because he's just a very aggressive support. He matches that very well with Kiriko. Number 3 is Ana, because, I mean, Ana does very, very well in dive as well, but she plays for more of a slow play style, which Kiriko can work well with, but it's not super, super great, so I mean, you take that with a grain of salt. I think Ana is an easier character, and she's more versatile. So in ranked, I think she'd be easier to climb with, if we were going to say that. But if we're going to talk about what characters are best in the highest level sense, and you're going to find the most value with them long term, I think Ana is definitely up there with Zen and Kiriko as well. The only other 2 characters that I'm really going to talk about is Lucio. I think he's good in the sense where you can run Brawl on some maps, where you're speeding your team around and just trying to get really close. But the thing is, those maps come few and far between. They're not really that plentiful in Overwatch 2, especially when Kiriko is just very strong right now. So just take it all with a grain of salt. This might change within a week or 2, but nonetheless, Baptiste also is played sometimes when you're trying to play in those Brawl compositions or you're trying to keep your backline alive. I just think Kiriko does that job better, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the next 3 supports, I just don't really see a lot of playtime coming out of Mercy and Moira. And Brigitte, I think that Kiriko, again, just does the job better with what's meta right now. So that's what I'm going to say with the best of worst supports when Kiriko finally drops into comp in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll find some changes with Sombra where she won't actually be so great and Kiriko doesn't have the people behind her to really pop off. But again, this is all speculation, this second tier list. This first tier list, I would say this is probably going to maintain pretty damn consistent moving into the future of Overwatch 1. So if you're a beginner, please let me know if you have any questions about anything I said today. I hope that this was more palatable than my last guide on Tuesday, because I think there's a lot of new players that really want to know, like, what's a good starting point. And I think Lucio downwards is a good starting point, but if you want a little bit more of a challenge, I think Ana or maybe even Zenyatta is a good start for you. Also, before we close out today's video, if you guys are ready for a Kiriko guide, please let me know down in the comments below as well, because I've been looking at this character a lot. I think I could give you guys a basic Kiriko guide, but if we're going to say comprehensive, like some of my other guides on this channel for all of these other supports, I don't know if I'm quite there yet. That might change within a week or so, but just keep that in mind. I'm not quite ready to make the full Kiriko guide yet, but I think I could definitely provide some tips to learn her faster if that's something you are all interested in. Again, just let me all know. And if you've been watching this for 15 minutes, you're probably an OG, but if you're new here, please do give this video a like, subscribe, comment that you liked it. It helps us out a ton, and I really want to meet a lot of the new players because I want you guys to have the best possible experience with Overwatch. Playing Overwatch without having a guiding figure is probably one of the worst experiences in gaming. You know, you definitely want to know this game because it's very, very mentally demanding. But hey, if you're up for that challenge, please do let me know. Join the Discord, send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to help. But until next time, I've got to peace out and pass out. I'll see you in the next one.